Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's May the 5th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And a couple of things real quick before we get started. I got a couple of emails about missing chart lesson from last week, and I did one every day last week. I believe it was on Thursday, but for whatever reason, it was listed as private. I don't know if I accidentally clicked on the private button or what, but for whatever reason, it's been uploaded since Thursday. I guess that was Thursday's chart lesson, either Wednesday or Thursday. But it's there, and I marked it as public now, so you can see it. And there was actually a trade example in that trade, so if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It was a good chart lesson, I think, and there was that trade example. A lot of people want to see trade examples, so I showed one that day. And so go back and watch that if you hadn't watched it. A couple other things. I got a couple of different charts today. I just want to look at a couple of them. The first one was, let's open this one first. Let me show you this chart. The guy tried to go short right here, and he read this perfectly. He's got the channel perfectly going up. He's got the break. He's got the move to a new high, but he just got antsy on going short here, and you can't go short until the trend is over. You got to wait until, and generally what I always tell people is wait until you get a confirmed trend line in the opposite direction. And I say that a lot, but people obviously do not hear it. So I'm going to say it again. Don't get so antsy to go short, because that's what they want to do, is trap you in on the wrong side and run your stops. And this thing was going to correct from here, but it's just too early. This is not a good setup either. Notice how on his chart, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 stacked bars overlapping. These are not, swinging back and forth like these right here. I'll get some people that'll think this was a congestion, and it's not really. There's a couple of swings there, where this one, and there are a couple of swings up here. You could see that there, but there's just too much overlap. There's no confirmed trend line. If you draw a trend line off the first 2 swings, it would have been these, and then it went higher, and then you draw it off that one, it still went higher. There's just no reason to be going short yet. And when you compare that to my chart, notice I marked a possible trade there, because you got this, you got your break, you got 2 attempts to go lower that failed, and so of course then you want to go long. But I even marked, mine looks better than his. You got a chance to get in this thing way before the lows here on mine. But even then I drew it green, and you would have had to use a limit order and to get out, because otherwise it's a 4-tick failure. And so, but his chart doesn't look as good as mine, so you can't even say, his are just an up. They're all stacked up side by side. You don't get a chance to get in at the very top of this little small congestion area. And I think this was the guy, and somebody else actually called this a range, and this is not a range really. It's starting to look like one, but we end up going higher here, and this is just a correction in the uptrend. The uptrend is just not quite over with yet. So I hope that makes sense. Don't be so eager. This is what a confirmed trend line. You get your first 2 swings, and then you came back and tested it, and so then you can go short right there. Now, I don't have that one marked, but I actually took that trade right there. We'll just back out of this and make it real big where you can see it. I just went ahead and took this trade and demonstrated it, just so you could see what it does look like. And notice you got your new high, and you got your first 2 swings. So I drew that line, and then we came back and tested it. The first 2 swings set your trend, and then the third one confirms it, and it turned right down. I just went short right there, 1 tick below it, and you could see it hesitate a little bit, and then it goes lower. Easy trade. Easy 4 ticks. I could have got another 4 ticks out of it. And now you come back to the trend line again. This thing is just not in a hurry to sell off. So I hope that's clear to you. don't try to trade in the other direction until you get a confirmed trend in the other direction. And you don't even really have two good swings here. It's still because it's still going higher. I could see where you might, if you saw my chart, you might have wanted to take that short, but on his chart, no way. We go back to this chart. I think I can make this a little bigger here. But you can see on this chart, those bars are just all stacked up there, and there's not any confirmed trend line to the downside. You've got one here, but now you've got a break in two attempts to go lower, and there's not enough room to get out before getting right there. It's just not a very good setup. So my setup on my chart looked a lot better than this one, and I still think it was a real aggressive trade. So, but as you can see, this person read this perfectly. They got that channel working pretty close. It's a little bit steeper than that. Or this should be a little lower on the high side, but that's close enough. The main thing is they've got the trend line exactly the way I saw it. You got your break. Just don't be so eager to get short up here, because that's what they want to do, is trap you. And a lot of times you do get two legs up to a new high, and you've only got one right there. And so it attempted to make another one. And so I hope that's clear. I hope that's helpful, because I get that. I see that all the time. People are always trying to counter trend trade. They're always in a hurry to try to catch a top or catch a bottom, and that's where most people lose money. You just don't want to do that, especially when you're reading it properly. Just don't be so eager to enter a trade. Wait on a good setup, and that setup on his chart was just not very good. Even on mine, it's questionable, but on his, it was terrible. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. There was another one I wanted to put up. And this guy, he was asking me about his chart looking a lot different than mine. And his chart really doesn't look a lot different than mine. He just got his trend lines drawn a little bit differently, so I wanted to put his on. Basically what he was asking me was, can you get multiple angles on a trend line? And you really don't get a multiple angle here. You get two swings here, but it doesn't really hold here. You will see that from time to time, but I just don't think your chart, your price action looks very much like mine. It almost looks identical to mine, but it's just the way you drew your lines. You didn't draw them quite the same way I did. I drew these off the first two swing, starting with a high, and it caught it right there. Then you get the break to move to a new low, a little reversal pattern, and off it goes. He drew his a little flatter than mine, and when he didn't catch this, that's telling you most likely you probably, and notice this way overshot. You just don't quite have this drawn right. You're close enough, but you don't have it drawn right. And then coming up, when you saw this swing here, notice how this doesn't fit here. It comes right up. It comes right up through there and holds, and you get a little overshoot right here. You just don't quite have this drawn right still. And then you would have had the break right here. I mean, your chart looks just like mine. It's just your lines are not the same. So I hope that's clear. Let's see if there were any other questions. My data seems to be slightly different than yours, which I don't really see the data as being different. I see the same things. I just think it's the way you drew your lines. Is it within the PAT rules to have a trend channel change angle? And that is true. You do see an angle change, but if this was valid, you probably would have seen a bounce here instead of it going below. So I just don't think you've quite got it right there. I don't know what all the dots stand for. That's I'm sure they stand for something, but I don't have any idea. So, but anyway, let's talk about the chart now. Really what we had was we had a nice trend working down. We got the break, moved to a new low, a little reversal type pattern here. And look how that shot straight through the EMA. That's a good signal. This one was a little more risky. It's a second entry long. But I like this one. I mean, Okay, I'm sorry, I had an interruption there. I cannot remember where we were talking about the reversal pattern here. Um, but anyway, let's go back and talk about the trades. These were the first couple of shorts I saw. Um, you got a second entry short right here, pretty much right off that trend line. It wasn't quite there, but sometimes you have to adjust your line. But then the next bar comes back, and you get another chance to enter, and that one is right off the trend line. And I'm assuming that's what it was. Enough people just didn't see it as being ready to go lower yet, and then you get a real easy move down. But no matter where you entered there, it worked. Uh, you got the same thing, and this is one where you might even consider adding on if you didn't exit when it was got hung up right there with whatever it would give you. That's where I would have added on. And then you get another move down here. This one I went back and forth whether to make green, but this is just a breakout pullback short. And notice you would have had all those lows right across there. And you break lower and you come back and you test it multiple times and you get that one little tick higher. Let me make this a little bigger. It's probably hard to see. One little tick higher and it fails. Just go low short right there. Easy move down. So that's like a breakout pullback short, but it's also the first break of the trend line too. Um, the only reason normally you'd want to wait on this to get back to the EMA or maybe test these highs. But this is just, like I said, this is like a breakout. All the fact that you couldn't get above that and then you break above it and come back in and didn't go anywhere, you likely got people trapped in. So when it breaks lower, it's gonna, and you see, and everybody, all the longs had to exit now. So and then you move down, you get one leg, little correction, second leg, and then you get a little trap down here at the bottom. Um, this really should have been green right here. I forgot to go back and change it. It's a little bit aggressive, but there is a trap, and you can see you got a new low. First entry, pullback, second entry. It fails and turns higher, and then it pulls back, and then you get a second entry off the low. Again, it's a little bit aggressive, uh, but I went back and forth. I really wanted to make this one blue, but I didn't. I ended up just leaving it green because it's not a very good setup bar. It didn't break higher. It didn't close right on its high. If you tried to use a limit order, you didn't get a fill on it. So it's just a little bit aggressive. You just about have to use a stop. Or if you did use a limit order, you had to get in where the stop occurred. Otherwise, you didn't get filled. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't remember. I keep getting interrupted. It's just been crazy. I think we were talking about this trade. This is, even though we're all the way at the highs here, notice, remember this area was support resistance. Prices break through, pull back and test it. It holds. But the reason I really like this one, here's your new low, first entry, pull back, second entry. There's two measured legs there. You're going to trap people there. And I love those traps on reversals and easy trade. And then, of course, you pull back to the trend line, second entry long. It broke lower. It didn't quite break out the high. I liked just maybe using a limit order, maybe dropping it a tick back in. I think that's how I got filled on it. And off it goes. And then, of course, then you get another two-legged pull. I did want to mention this, too, is that notice that on these first couple that you don't really, the reversal has just occurred, so the market's real strong, and if you draw your trend lines, you don't get another chance to enter. This one, it did kind of give you a breakout pullback long. You might have thought about going long there or wait until the second entry, but then it's too high. You're way too high then, so too close to the highs or whatever, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But there was a little break above here. It didn't close above it, but sometimes on these short-term ones on a good trend, that's all you're going to get. So. But these are reversing right off the trend line. This one was the one that was a little more questionable, and but I still liked it. It's a perfect two-legged pullback to the EMA, the trend line. It's a second entry long. You probably wanted to use a limit order here. That's the way I recommend entering that one because it didn't break higher and close on its high until here. Then you get one that did close out here, but the best bet is to take that second entry and just use a limit order there. That's my recommendation on that one. Then you get a little trend line working back here. You get your break. You get one attempt for a new low, and a second attempt it fails and goes higher. When that broke higher, I would have just had, just have your stop waiting on that. Easy scalp. Um, but I want to talk about this too. Only reason I like that one is because it was a little bit of a trap, and it's aggressive. You've got to use a limit order here. That's the only way you could get in that one, is if you used a limit order. And if you couldn't get filled on a limit order, don't chase it, because there's not enough room to get out before that low, and you already bounced there once. So, and there's really no confirmed trend line. I just think it's real aggressive. But if your chart looked like mine, let me get this out of the way. It looks a little better than the chart I showed you earlier. So hope that makes sense. I think you're just, I really don't even like circling that one, but because I just think it's too aggressive. There's not a confirmed trend line in the other way, but a lot of aggressive traders won't wait on that, because a lot of times you will get even if the market's not ready to reverse, you'll still get your two legs, and you do get them here. This one just can't get below the previous low. And then, of course, we talked about this trade. I went ahead and took it and demonstrated it. It's a failed second entry long. Now you got your confirmed trend line when it turned down off of it. Easy trade. Now you got a break of it here. See if we come down and get a new low. I'd have my trend line going this way to figure out when I'm going to want to do anything different. This may actually be a little higher here, like maybe so. But that's what I saw today. This is really strong resistance. And keep this in mind. Let me talk about this real quick. This was your overnight high. This occurred Sunday evening at whatever time. Let's just see what time. That's about 8:30 Central Standard Time. So that's going to be an important part level when you come back to it. So don't be getting long right around that area. Wait until you break through and you get something confirmed that you're going to have that's going to hold and go higher. These overnight lows, and this was the one from this morning. This was the overnight low at one time. Actually, this was an overnight low too, because this happened at 8:30. And you can see prices struggled to go below that level right there. And that's why, because these levels are really important, these overnight lows and highs. And so we didn't really struggle too much. It came back and tested it and went lower. But just remember, if it goes right on through it, you probably don't have much to worry about. But notice when it got up here, it started getting resistance before it ever got there. And then that's, when it comes back, you can't be taking anything real crazy in here. You got to make sure you got room to get out before you get back to that high, because there's a good chance it's going to get hung up there, and it may even reverse right there. And so I hope that's clear. But and treat the lows the same way. And that's really about it for today. Nice channel down, the rules worked perfect. Nice channel up, the rules worked perfect. It's just you got to be careful going long now, and you don't have anything really strong to the downside either. So notice there's not a lot of trades marked in there. You're better off just to sit tight and wait and see what happens, and skip those trades. I mean, there's too many sure things around that were around earlier to be taking those kind of trades. And I know what happens is that people sit here and they watch this whole trend go down without them, and they finally tried to get in, and then it reverses on them, and they're sitting there and they watch it and they watch it, and they finally decide to get in, and then it reverses on them. You can't wait. You have to take the trades when they're there, and because the longer it gets in the trend, the more suspect it gets and the more opportunity. Look how these early ones, how strong they are. You don't even get a pullback, and then you start. And then you get the break, the move to a new high, and then it's been, you could really call this a trading range now. Now it looks like a trading range. You've confirmed this low. You've already confirmed the highs, and now you've confirmed the lows. So yeah, it looks like a trading range. And but when you just had this going on this morning, that's not a trading range. So I hope you can see the difference there. Uh, just like a trend line is being confirmed, you get your first two touches and then your third touch kind of confirms it. And your lows, here's your double bottom, and this kind of confirmed that it was good and it's holding. So uh, make sure you understand that. And that's pretty much what you got now, just a tight trading range until something happens and we go lower or whatever, or we break out and go higher. So anyway, that's about it for today. Don't forget that if you didn't watch Thursday's video because it was for whatever reason wasn't public, I still don't know quite what happened, if I made a mistake and accidentally made it private or whatever. But anyway, it's out there now. Be sure to watch that one. There's a nice trade example in there. I hope this trade example that I didn't show it in live, but showed it to you. I went in and took it so I could demonstrate it to you. Or just show you when you'd want to take one off the eye and when you wouldn't. And I hope that makes sense to you. But make sure you understand that what a confirmed trend line is, because I say that all the time and then people just forget about it, or else they don't quite understand it. But your first two swings will usually set your trend line, and then if you get a third touch of it, that confirms it. And you got your first two swings here, and then you came back and that confirmed it. And look at that nice trade down. And so on this one, you got your first two trends, and that one confirmed it. You got a break real quickly thereafter, but you can't help that. You got to take what it'll give you, and then when you get to break, and then you got a new low, then it gets suspect after that. And so here you got your break and new high, so it's suspect going long without a good setup, but you got to be real careful going short. So the best thing to do is just sit tight until you get a trap or you get the right setup. And what happens is people get antsy, and they've missed all this. They've missed the easy trades, and then they want to find a trade, and you just can't find a good trade in here hardly. There's only two good trades in there, a long and a short, and that's it. And there's nothing, there hadn't really been any more good trades in here. And so you just have to sit tight and be patient. And that's hard for people to do, especially when they've watched all this go without them, or they've watched all this come down and then all this go up, or else, they're still trying to get short down here at the lows, and they're trying to get long at the highs. It's just human nature. The market does not work under common sense of just like the rest of life is. It's completely backwards. So keep that in mind. But I'm going to wrap this one up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.